I'd like to go back through this now and talk about this issue of how would I do it. Back to that first diagram. We look at this and I say, all right, let's look at this in the sense that the current setup of the white arrows is a good thing, that it's fine. If the game master narrates, one person narrating will turn out differently plot-wise and everything from another person narrating, but part of the fun of play is to have different people doing that. Awesome. So it is not my ideological position that no matter what, failure or success, I'm narrating it, damn it, because that's really what I'm rolling for. Let's reject that entirely. I remember when people first started talking about that in relationship to the pool all the way back in 2001, and I facepalmed then, and I'm facepalming now. So let's reverse that and say I'm good with whoever narrates. And instead, I'm going to look at those things that I might do as a player, specifically either darkening a candle or having my character die, in a dire conflict, and say, are those things that I want to do because they are fun and important to me right now in terms of this overall structure of play? That I would do them if I had the option, because either of them, because right now I really want to do that. I really think this is contributing to play in terms of my maximum enjoyment, in terms of my sense of, aesthetic power of what we're doing. It is the time. I got a success, but damn it, I am darkening that candle. This success should really close this turn. And then we should move on to the next turn with all of its attendant procedure. If that's the case, then the GM rolling higher than me is a moment where I assess that. And I say, oh, you know what? I'm going to darken that candle on my success. And if we retain the diagram as written, then the fact that I get to narrate instead of the GM in that case is a detail of actually very little importance. It may be of some importance in kind of a monologue and victory way where I really, really feel strongly about how to close off this turn. So I am going to say some things here. So that's why I wouldn't remove it from its position in the diagram, but I am flipping the meaning of it. That there is no particular reason for me want to seize control from the GM, because in any properly built role-playing experience, there is no control in the first place. We have different contributions at different times and in different ways by different people, and that's how it is. And it can shift around like it does in this game. So I'm not worried about this, but I am inspired perhaps to narrate. I am inspired, and I'm also inspired by the idea of closing this turn as such. I mean, it's going to be closed sooner or later. Somebody's going to fail a roll in particular. So therefore, why not now, if this is really where I'm at as a participant? That's kind of cool. So with that top one, it's really just about flipping perspective. And if that's how we understand that we're doing it, then I don't find that particular design to be ass. It's just 100% not supported by the way it's described, explained, and basically ideologically underpinned in the text. And that's fine. I can, I'll just take that out in the backyard and put a bullet in it. We're done. So then how about for the failure? This is kind of interesting too. Let's take the very same concept that instead of saying I must get control from the GM, I can't possibly live with the GM narrating this failure. Instead, I say it is time for my dude to die. It was a dire conflict after all. And so, all sorts of dreadful things could occur and are actually supposed to occur on the failure, no matter who narrates. And the GM cannot kill my character incidentally. So incidentally, I was not protecting my character in any way or saying he's going to die anyway. No, I am the only person who can kill my character, and this is the only circumstance in which I can do it. And you know what? this guy needs to die. I prefer this not to be in the situation where I dislike my character and it's basically suicide, so I don't have to tolerate playing them anymore. Instead, I'm saying, perhaps with a sniffle, right? Perhaps with, a sense of, one little being on my shoulder is, keep fighting the good fight. Your character's in this and you're playing your character and all the rest of it. And the other one on the other shoulder is saying, dude, he's got to die. If he didn't die and this were any kind of other story, you would groan. And now you are in a creative situation where you don't have to do that. You don't have to groan because someone else is making some ass decision about this for some stupid sentimental reason. No. Time to die. If that's your experience in play, which I have felt many times, and I'm sure you have too, then you can look at it and you can say, yeah, it's time. And in that sense, you narrating is because you are inspired. I mean, again, as above, it's not the prize you're getting. It's a corollary to being inspired to this degree. And that's a good thing. So in the case of this diagram, there's nothing structural, I think, that needs to be changed, but the entire purpose of it, the entire orientation toward it must be different than what's in the text for me to come anywhere near like a mile away from playing this game. And if you think that's a simple switch, if you think that's that's just a style thing, it's not. So let's look at that second diagram, which I think is far, far more structurally broken. And it's not just an ideological switch. We have to actually change the procedure. This diagram cannot stand. So here we're going to go ahead and do this business about the ones, being set aside. And so therefore the inside turn dice pool, as long as we keep succeeding, and if we roll runs along the way, will be, undergo attrition. You know what I would do? I would say that's how it is. There is no re-rolling ones. Those ones are going to diminish, and that's how it is. We don't know how many we're going to get on the successes. We don't know if we're going to keep getting successes. So, it will do so at the rate that it does so. And that's the nature of a turn, that we watch the dice pool drop under those conditions of continued successes and any ones that are rolled. And given that those are both statistically possible not to occur, therefore we can't say, oh no, it's this incredible, inexorable race downward and we can stop it to some extent. We don't know how inexorable it is. That's a feature of how the dice roll per time within any given turn, and we should let it be its own feature. There's no reason to go back and mess with it. So never mind the re-rolling the ones. Instead, let's just look at this stack of cards and separate it from the re-rolling ones issue entirely, because we're not going to do that. The ones will take care of themselves. Thank you. Now, I do, however, have this stack of cards. As an aside, I really like this idea of this stack of cards. We've got the scary one, the brink at the bottom, and then we've got these others, virtue, vice, and moment, in any order that you had chosen. So we've got kind of a screen presence kind of thing going on, where each person has separately decided upon their own order, and therefore what is being showcased, perhaps per character. That's kind of awesome. Cool. Well, that's kind of the way I think it should be played. Whatever, like, I can play any aspect of any of those. For one thing, someone else knows about my brink, by the way, so that person can role play in the knowledge, the role play in that character's knowledge of, what I have done, the kind of person I really am underneath. And I can play in terms of either trying to, admit it or to conceal it or anything like that. So that's just the brink, and that's sitting down there at the bottom. But we can play regarding the brink, right? Same thing with any of them. I can play with any, my virtue, my vice, my moment. I can talk about, what I hope. I can, work on, some aspect of my character. But in particular, that top one, I should be really hammering that one. I should say, all right, well, I put that one on the top, so I am committed from the start of play to that's what people are going to see the most about my character. And when during the course of play, when and if at any time, and remember, we've got, 9 of these turns to do, and each one perhaps with multiple rolls. That's a lot of play. At some point, I can, take that and say, you know what, I think I've done my duty on this, or rather, I feel as though I have really hit this. Now, I can keep playing it as a feature of my character if I so desire. Taking it off taking it off the stack and tossing it away does not mean that my character is suddenly freed from this thing or loses their virtue or something, but it does mean that it's no longer sort of my big green light for what to do with my character. So I'm playing along, and at any time, I just say, you know what? I have done this depressive alcoholic thing. It has had its impact on play. And at my option, anytime I want, I just take that and toss it away. And the next card is playing that role. It has a big green light for me. If it's the moment, then, hey, guess what? Now that it's revealed, maybe even before it has been fully expressed in play, but the fact that I've got my moment showing means I get my hope die. Cool. And that will persist. And I don't know if it will persist past the point that I throw the moment away, but maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Consider that later as maybe a at the table design decision. And you keep going, and you would, eventually come to the point where the brink is available for use. We'll talk about that in a moment. What am I doing here? I mean, a person can say, but can't I just buzz through all of them immediately? Sure. I mean, it's shitty play, and I don't want to play with you, as you'll quickly find out. Sitting at the table, are you even playing? Look, you're buzzing through those by these, pro forma evocations. Sure, you can do it, but, screw you. That is therefore a non-issue for me. Similarly, I'm looking forward to meeting all of the characters. And I don't see why we have to wait for these probabilistic edge cases, edges of edges, for us to get to do that. So just let it be. Maybe we all end up at our brinks, immediately or very, very soon from the beginning of play. Fine. We got a quick look at the more, the apparently more superficial aspects of the characters. And now we're like at the darkness, and we're all playing these, difficult and problematic and revealed to be slightly monstrous people, for the rest of the game. I mean, the only reason, if that's what we came to do, then that's what we came to do. One person might do that fairly quickly, another person might not. Maybe somebody really likes that virtue at the top of the stack that they stuck there and is just going to play that through turn after turn after turn for a while. That's cool too. You quit thinking in terms of incentives. I got to get that moment going so I can get that hope die. Got to get that brink going so I can get those rerolls. That factors in. The mechanical benefits of certain aspects of these things are working away in our heads as we play, and they're factored in as part of the decision making, and that's a good thing. But if that's the way that you are sacrificing any other aspect of play in order to do that, then that's not play. Remember, play is composed of the input of authorities. We should really be thinking about how authorities are coming into play and basically defining what's happening before the dice rolls. Because if it's GM story time until I can finally get those dice in my hand and finally get a success and finally get a narration out of it, and it's basically that's, my moment, my golden moment, then play is terrible. Up until then, I'll just be compliant and go, and perhaps put on my little character hat, and do my little character dance and stuff like that. But that's the moment, right? And I desperately need to get to that. Moment, no pun intended. That's the goal. That's the reason I'm here. And I get to the moment so I can get that hope die. Ha, I got the hope die now. Come on, this is ass. So I would disconnect the card use from this re-rolling ones, take out the re-rolling ones entirely, and disconnect the card use from the outcomes of rolls and the probabilistic opportunities to do these things, and say you can burn a trait whenever you want, burn the top one if you want. You could even say if, when, and if you have played it sufficiently to your satisfaction. If we get to the point where somebody says, I'm burning the trait, and somebody says, but you never played the thing, well, that's already a broken problem right there. I mean, play has already been compromised, before the person says that. So, that's where you're looking at somebody and saying, do I really want to be at the table with this person? So the one other thing on here that I want to get rid of is this embracing your brink for a reroll. So we're going to first of all, we're just looking at that first diagram. Basically, it's just dice roll, ones are set aside, and we're done. And so then it's a separate diagram of the cards. I'm fine with, being a hope die with the moment. That's nothing wrong with a bonus die, because, there's this moment of hope thing going on. Awesome. Either potentially, during, or after. Awesome. But that whole business of re-rolling the dice and saying, all right, well, here's my dice roll, and I look at that and I'm going, oh, I don't like that dice roll. I'm going to re-roll that roll, and I'll embrace my brink to do it. Boy, talk about singing for your supper. Screw that. So that's just out. So broken the second diagram into two, removing the ones, real simple. Then we look over and see this business about the cards, and we have this business about eventually revealing, or starting with perhaps your moment, but eventually revealing the brink. Let's just hold off on that brink thing for right now, okay? Because then we go to this third diagram, which is about when you embrace your brink. And we see here that I would take away the red stars. Never mind the red stars. You can embrace your brink once your brink is showing. You can embrace it as you please. And then what do you, quote, get for it? Well, I don't know. Maybe there is no get for it. I would just divorce it from the concept of rerolls, full stop. What else we do with it, does there even have to be an incentive to do it? Remember, we're switching this around. You're playing this game. You received that brink. It's part of your character, and you are in fact interested in playing this game. So when that brink is revealed, who knows? Maybe there is some sort of thing you can do. Maybe there isn't. I'm saying it's not necessary that there be such a thing. No reason for there not to be some kind of interesting feature of play that kicks in because of that, whatever it may be. But I would leave that for table design, because at the moment, I'm not going to confabulate play in my head to, address what that could or should be. So that's what I would do with it if we're talking about playing 10 candles and having it actually be play of some kind. Here's the end to what I'm saying, in case anybody is having issues about this. Both Jesse and Pablo have talked about positive experiences during play. And Jesse has written about things that the way he has limited certain aspects, or the ways that he has framed his presentation of the game to people, represent some of the same concerns that I've raised. Some of them are a little different, and some of them are the same. So Jesse knows that he has done things. He's taken the book and kind of reshaped it in many ways, in the way that they play and the way that they talk about it, so that what he considers to be genuine play is actually occurring, which I accept. Genuine play would actually be occurring. Pablo's presentation suggests much of the same, that something has gone on in the way that the game has been presented to others, such that these elements are to some extent reduced, or to some extent turned into a functional set, or a more functional set than it was. Let's see. Adriano, I think, represented a similar view toward mine in his comments to Pablo's post about this. And so, therefore, I'm offering this construction, this presentation, for people who play 10 candles to say, what am I doing? Are we doing this widgety thing where we're basically cosplaying play, and have this whole issue of seizing control going on and whatnot? And it's also worth pointing out, which rules are we simply ignoring? Because that's something that happens a lot in these games. For example, if you think that those ones that are removed go to the GM's pool for the rest of the game or something, you've just completely created some other entirely different game and may not even realize it. And this is something I've seen many times with the pool, primetime adventures, and any number of things. People create some weird, lurching, other set of interlocking or failing to interlock or failing to operate, thing that they are doing at this table. So if you're playing 10 Candles, review that first and foremost, then review some of these points that I've made and say, what are we doing here, actually? And there you have it. My thoughts. Unleash the hounds, I suppose.